Oh, I remember the first time we ever went out in an 8 that year. I remember it very clearly. We went down, we met in the far bay, in the singles bay, stood down there. Brian came and spoke to us, and he said, right, this year, the plan for this 8 is to win the Thames Cup. And obviously we won it, so it's easy to look back and be like, oh, we actually did it. But like, talking about setting out clear goals, like in Cambridge, like it very much was like, this is the aim. Like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And like you said, just...
A lot of programs benefit from just having very clearly defined goals. I look at some of the top programs out there, and I think they are actually quite simple in their objectives.
Yeah.
You look at like Cambridge, for example, we want to win the boat race.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, there are other things that go on around that, like GB trials, for example, but they have one clear singular goal. Leander wants to get as many people into the squad as possible.
Yeah.
And Henley medals are sort of a supplementary thing that occurs off the back of that. Just simple, clear focuses. I think in high performance rowing, if you try to be everything for everybody, you struggle.
Yeah. And then, look, we were saying earlier, if you're going to name sort of the top 5, I mean, you've been involved in GB range to a certain extent, Molesey, Leander, Brooks, Cambridge. The only one that's missing there really is Oxford, but you're not going to do both of those. So anything from those other systems maybe that they did do well or they didn't do well, or things that you've taken, or do you think you've had an advantage potentially over other athletes by having seen how it all works in different places?
I definitely felt like I was at different stages of my rowing career when I went to different programs. What Cambridge did very, very well. They did a lot of things very, very well there. I worked under some fantastic coaches there. So Rob Baker and Steve Trapmore, just absolute wizards, technically.
Well, both coaching in the GB squad now, aren't they? I think. So that goes to show,
But also, the support staff they have, such as your Donald Leggett's, your Rich Chambers back in my time. The amount of sort of wisdom in that program. But what that program did very well was it was very accountable. Everything, all the training that you do had a lot of consequence to it. So I've been part of some high performance programs before where it doesn't matter whether you're, pulling the big ergs or doing well in the time trials. The sort of pecking order of the athletes doesn't really change. It's almost as if the coaches kind of think, okay, here is what I believe the ranking to be. And it's very static. It doesn't really change. But with Cambridge, there were a lot of assessed ergs. There was a lot of swaps going on. And the thing is, you knew that if you did well in one of these assessments, you would start to work your way up that hierarchy. So it gave everybody this incentive to want to keep pushing on all the time. And I think that's important. I think that's so crucial for a high performance program, that people think to themselves, putting my all into this will give me a fair shot at getting the best possible result for myself.
Yeah, I definitely feel like for myself, certainly in the GB team, one thing I didn't necessarily like was quite a lot of the low down work ergs and stuff were completely unsupervised. Like, it was just like, go and do it. Like, no one cares, no one's going to watch. I don't even know if anyone's, you write your number on the board, but is anyone even going to write that down anywhere? Like, it just felt like it was like mileage for the sake of mileage. And obviously at a certain point, like, there is a base amount of training that you want to get done. But in terms of things like the 10,000 hour theory and all that sort of stuff, it's like, it's not just being there and doing it and going through the motions. Like, it has to be applied. And also, the more you just do something for the sake of doing it, the more likely you're going to bed in bad technique. And it's not to say that maybe that's just one thing from one squad, and it's difficult, especially when you're up at that level. There's like a certain volume of training you need to get done, and a coach maybe can't be there for every session. There's going to be certain times when you don't have someone. But it's something we certainly did when we coached at Oxford College. So yes, students all on different programs, limited amount of time, to make sure that when we turn up and when we train, like, we're going to be absolutely on it. And I used to talk to them sometimes in the boat, like, if we get up for an early morning session and like no one's really turned up, and I'm like, you joined rowing, you've woken yourself up at 6 a.m, you've cycled here in the rain, you've got warmed up, like, this is the good bit. Like, you may as well put it in, you may as well turn up now and like switch on and actually like come and row, because you've done all the crap to now sit here and go through the motions. Like, what's the point? And that's probably, like, for you from Cambridge, like, from seeing it, like, that's the aspect of having a short period of time. And I think sometimes you can benefit a lot by having something close to work towards. Like quite often you've got like the whole year, like, oh, it's November, it's a 16K, who cares?
Yeah.
But like it sounds like for you in Cambridge, they've found a way to make you care.
I always think to myself that the measure of a good program is their ability to get older athletes to PB and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, look, you know, not to kind of sound at all disrespectful to some of the younger guys in the squad, but if you're joining a twice a day program from your college or your secondary school, of course you're going to PB.
Yeah.
You're training more than you ever have done. It's going to come very naturally. But
Yeah.
I'd spent, I'd been at a lot of different high performance programs. I'd been involved in the sport for a long time and went to Cambridge and still hacked chunks off a lot of PBs at 31 years of age.
Yeah.
Like that's the sign of a program that works.
Absolutely.
And what I think the big thing for me that I think made the difference having gone from Molesey to Cambridge was that at Molesey, I was in a single skull, training in a single skull. So, I could have a good session, I could have a bad session, I could give it my all, I could have a little bit of a lazy day, but ultimately I'm still going to be in the single skull.
Yeah.
At Cambridge, there was at least 2 opportunities to shine every week and start climbing the rankings.
Yeah.
And so every session counts while you're there. And it really adds up over the short period of time they have.
That's good. And I guess even like the takeaway from this, if people are listening, is to, if you feel like you're in a squad where maybe that's not happening, to create that for yourself in order to get an advantage over. So for me, like that would, in my head as a kid when I was rowing, it would be like, cool, like here's a 16K with no one else is taken seriously. So like if I get on it, I've got that advantage. And I remember Brian Armstrong getting mad that every week on a Thursday morning, he'd come in and see that I PB'd on the half hour again. I'd be like, oh, I bloody PB'd again. It's like, but he said I'm 18. Like, yeah, I trained at school, but coming into that Leander program, of course, I was going to make jumps up.